First you, Brajesh, you are in Dwarka. Tell us what you are seeing around you. Kya dikh raha hai? What are you seeing?
See, right now I'm at Dwarka. I'm reporting from the same spot from last 4 hours, and the situation is not changed a little bit. The wind is gusty. Now the only change is that the rain is here. Now a dual effect: the gusty wind and as well as the rainy atmosphere. So this is the difficulties people will face once the cyclone hits the land area. So cyclone has hit the
no reports of any death. No reports of any deaths and casualties so far. People have been evacuated safely.
More than 1 lakh people have been evacuated from the 8 districts, and the most people who have been evacuated from the Kutch area, Kutch district, more than 50,000 have been evacuated from the lowland areas. More than 1 lakh people have been evacuated. So right now there is no report of the casualty or the human death at this moment. But the picture will be clear after tomorrow morning, because the landfall process will continue till next 6 hours. We have to wait for next 24 hours to get the actual or the factual reports of the human casualty or the damage has been done to the port area. At this moment there is no casualty in Dwarka as well.
Okay, we've got also Ashutosh Mishra and Mandvi. Now remember, Mandvi along the Saurashtra coast, and we'll show you a map in a moment, was also affected by a major cyclone many years ago. This time all precautions taken, all people in and around the coastal areas have been evacuated, Ashutosh?
Yes, Rajdeep, and as you mentioned, this has a history of a severe cyclone. So perhaps the lessons were learned by, in recent past, where these activities have taken place in the coastal Gujarat. So clearly all preventive measures, Rajdeep, were taken, but since this morning we are only seeing the intermittent heavy rainfall, heavy downpour, along with the gusty wind, and as it is predicted, since the process of landfall has already underway, this will complete maybe by midnight. But what is more a matter of concern for the particular Mandvi region is, Rajdeep, right behind me you see these, this is really scary, and by midnight when the process will complete, the eye of the storm, which is around 120 kilometers from the radius of this coastal line of Mandvi, it will take another 3 to 4 hours after completing process for the peak impact of this wind velocity here to hit the coastal line, and that will be the same time when there is another high tide expected. So that will potentially not bring only a significant damage to the public asset, but simultaneously there is a threat of waterlogging and flood-like situation in the lowline areas. But that was anticipated. In fact, all the agencies and administration carried out a risk assessment process, and by following that, peoples were evacuated from the worst affected areas, from the low-lying areas. But for now, the power is snapped all across the city. We have taken shelter near a private hospital. In fact, they are using private generators to keep the operations and the other medical facilities to continue. But for now, indeed, it's very scary outside. We have seen huge number of trees literally falling down. There are multiple poles,
connections all off,
and of course, since everything will happen by midnight.
Ashutosh, power connections have all been switched off. How are the power connections, medical facilities, are they still, how are the hospitals in and around operating at the moment?
Well, Rajdeep, in fact, I'm reporting right outside a private hospital. Power supply has been totally snapped all over the city, and this was a preventive measure. For example, in a low-lying area, if they continue to supply electricity and the poles literally falling down, that will potentially, bring more devastation, more disaster. And for example, these private hospitals, they are running with a heavy generators, heavy voltage generators. So these machineries are being used. And this is not only, also at the monitoring center of Nagar Palika and several crucial monitoring centers, they are using either the battery backups or the gensets with the diesel or multiple fuels. So only there are few places, including the emergency medical operations, emergency medical facilities, which are still running with their own power backup. Otherwise, entire city is totally blackout, totally dark. And of course, while morning, when people will wake up, they'll potentially see what kind of devastation has been triggered by this cyclone, because ultimately the peak of it will hit only by the midnight.